decided or presented to the court this week on October 8th. And this deals with discrimination and whether Title VII protects those who are discriminated against based on either sexual orientation or gender identity. In the Altitude Express versus the Zarda case, this was out of the Second Circuit, and the Second Circuit Court of Appeals as a whole group. And usually those cases are decided by 3-judge panels. In this case, they called the en banc all of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals judges, and they decided that Title VII did, in fact, protect those who were discriminated based on sexual orientation. So the matter was appealed by the other side. In this case, it was Altitude Express. The particular facts of the case is there was a skydiver, and the skydiver had a woman who was going to do tandem skydiving with him, and she expressed some concerns about how close they were in proximity, and he said, "Don't worry about it because I'm gay. I'm the last person you have to worry about." She apparently said something to the woman's either boyfriend or fiance, and then he complained to the employer, and the employer fired him for that. Unfortunately, later he ended up passing away in a skydiving accident, but his estate has continued to bring this charge and has now made it all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. The other one of the cases that are now before the Supreme Court is the Bostock versus Clayton County, Georgia. This was an unpublished case out of the 11th Circuit. And the issue again is whether Title VII ban against discrimination is protected by Title VII. And the panel said no, it is not protected. And the reason they said it was not protected is that back in 1979, another court in the same 11th Circuit, or back in the 2nd and the 5th Circuit before it split off, but it's a precedent for them, is that a prior court had determined that homosexuality was not a protected characteristic to which Title VII applied. So the court said that regardless of whether that's the right opinion, whether that should be the correct opinion, the court said we're bound by the precedent in our circuit, so we as a circuit court are not going to be willing to make a decision otherwise. And we'll leave it up to the Supreme Court to make a ruling on that. So, of course, what happened is they have appealed it to the Supreme Court, so this issue will be part of these 3 cases that the Supreme Court is going to decide. The last one is the Harris Funeral Home versus EEOC. And this involves a transgender woman. She was initially employed as a man at a funeral home, doing director of the funeral home's business. And as he was working there, he transitioned to a woman and wanted to be called by the correct pronouns, started dressing as a woman. And the owner of the funeral home felt that was in violation of their religious views, and they terminated. And so this case is before the court on whether Title VII protects gender identity. Obviously, the challenge is, how many are able to predict what the Supreme Court's going to say? If you've been listening to the news, you've probably heard all kinds of commentators on which side of the issue will come down. I do not know. I think it'll be a really interesting decision by the Supreme Court, so I encourage everybody to keep an eye on what's going to happen. I suspect we won't hear until June at the earliest when they make some of their opinions. So I think that'll be a very, very big impact on the employment world.